Hey guys, I wanted to do a quick video for you guys. I've had a few comments asking if I can talk a little bit about Gouldian pairs and how you know if you have a true pair and what things should you look for, and are your Gouldians in breeding condition and stuff like that. And so, one thing to point out first of all is Gouldian finches, they're not very social with each other. And what I mean by that is if you look at zebra finches and society finches, they're very social. They preen each other. They're constantly huddled together with each other. Whether they're a pair or they're siblings or they're cousins, it doesn't matter who they are. They're always next to one another, and Gouldian finches aren't that way. Even true pairs, they're not super touchy. And so sometimes it may be difficult to realize if you have a true pair of Gouldians or not. And so a couple things that I wanted to point out to you guys and talk to you about. Maybe it'll help you down the road and give you some things to look for to better judge if you have a true pair of Gouldians or not. And so a good example is my blueback pair that's up here up front. Originally, I didn't have them paired together. I had both of them paired up with a split to blueback mate. And up in this cage right here, I had my male and my hen. She was a red-faced split to blueback. And so put them in there. They were together for about 2 weeks, and nothing really happened with them. My male didn't really sing a whole lot to her. He didn't really go in the nest and try and sing to her and bring her into the nest. He didn't even build a nest. And, I kind of wondered if they liked each other or whatnot. I knew that they were both in breeding condition. But, the hen, her beak was nice and black. His beak's nice and pearly white. He was singing like crazy before. He just didn't seem to be hitting it off with her, And so I finally decided that they didn't really like each other, by a lot of those things. And also another thing to look for is you can come in at night when the lights are turned off and shine a flashlight on them. Typically, if your Gouldians like each other and they're a mate or a pair, they'll sleep next to each other or really close to each other. If they don't really like each other, they're usually on opposite ends of the perch or opposite ends of the cage every night. And so that's something to look for. That's a good indicator that they at least like each other enough to sleep next to each other. And so by the end of 2 weeks, nothing had happened. And for my male blueback or my female blueback, nothing was happening. No nests were built. No eggs were being laid. And typically my males, they build pretty good nests with their pairs. And so that was a big sign to me saying, hey, I don't think they like each other. So I swapped them. I put the bluebacks together and I put my greenbacks that were split the blue together, and both pairs hit it off right away. This blueback pair here, the male's inside the nest because they had babies. He, within the hour of me putting the hen in with him, he was singing to her. He was inside the nest box calling to her. She was going in the nest box with him. By 3 days, he had the nest built. By 2.5 weeks, she had eggs laid. So those were good signs. So if you put a pair together and by 2 weeks, nothing has happened, usually there's a couple things. First of all, your pair is probably not in breeding condition. Or if they are in breeding condition, they don't really like each other. And so one thing to also look for if they don't like each other is to make sure they're not fighting. Sometimes pairs of Gouldians will fight with each other, the males and females. Luckily for me, my pairs, all of my Gouldians are really calm and none of them fight. And so that's one thing to look for. And mine didn't really fight, but that's something to look for if your pairs don't get along with each other. And kind of have a 2-week period. If you put them together and by 2 weeks a nest isn't being built, usually maybe your pairs don't really like each other. And one thing you can do is you can separate your pair for a week or two and then put them back. separate them so they can still see each other, but they're not in the same cage. And then put them back together after about a week or two, and see if maybe something else sparks with them or rekindles, and see if that draws something together for them. And I kind of use the 2-week period as a benchmark for me. If by the end of 2 weeks, if my pairs haven't made any progress at all, meaning a nest being built, or the males singing to them, or them sleeping next to each other at night, I'll usually separate them and either try and find a different pair, or I'll separate them for a couple weeks and then try and put them back together. And so, and that goes for all of my Gouldian finches. And maybe a couple things to talk about to help bring your Gouldian finches into breeding condition. Gouldian finches, they're not like canaries. You don't need to extend the daylight hours for them to come into breeding condition. Gouldians mainly are triggered by increase of foods. So I will increase the amount of egg food that I give them every day. I will increase the variety of seeds that I give them every day, like millet seed and Niger seed and other things like that. And I'll increase the amounts of vegetables and fruits that I provide for them. Also, temperature can play a factor in there. I usually will try and heat up my bird room a little bit. Right now it's 80 degrees in my bird room, and so that could help also bring your Gouldian finches into condition. And so these are just a few of the things to look for in your Gouldians, and I hope this helps. If there's anything else specifically that you would like for me to talk about, I can. I did produce a video previously a few weeks back that kind of shows some of the signs of your condition, or your Gouldians are in breeding condition. And I'll put that link at the end of this video so you guys can refer to that one as well, and kind of show you maybe some signs to look for in your Gouldian finches. And I think the two main biggest ones to see if your Gouldians are in breeding condition is the beaks. The beaks, first of all, if your hen beaks are black, so if you look at this hen, this white-breasted hen, she's on the water perch right there. Her beak is pretty black. It's hard to tell or distinguish her beak from her mask. Let me see if I can try and get a little bit closer without her flying away. See how black her beak is? That's a sign that she's in breeding condition. And if you look at the male, look at how pearly white his beak is. That's a sign that he's in breeding condition. So same up here with my blueback female. It's really hard to tell the difference between her beak and her mask because they're very similar in color. And so something to look for. That definitely helps. And then probably the second best thing to look for is if the male sings to the female and she looks interested. So she either stays next to him and listens to his whole song, or she joins him in the courtship, whether she's shaking her head really fast or jumping up and down, or many times the females will quiver their tails up and down or point their tail towards the direction of the male. Those are all signs that she's accepting him as a mate. So keep an eye on that. That's a part of breeding birds. You need to know your stock or know your birds and watch them. Watch them. See who likes each other. See who doesn't like each other. See who eats together, who doesn't eat together. And typically if you can single those pairs out, then you have a better chance when it comes to breeding them. So hopefully this helped. Like I said, if there's anything else that you would like me to talk about, leave a comment down below. Please share the video and like it, and hope to see you guys next week. Thanks.